All right, well, welcome everybody this evening to the monthly Be Strong Talk for the month of November. And we have another special guest here this evening, but real quick before we get into that, you can see all of our great monthly Be Strong talks on our website at grace-roots.org. And Grace Roots is the nonprofit that is sponsoring these talks. And you can also find Grace Roots on Facebook and YouTube, and all of our monthly talks, at least recently, are on YouTube. And so I'm going to turn it over to Grace Roots board member Archie Leidy for an introduction of our special guest speaker this evening.
Well, thank you, Jay. I was going to wear my Be Strong shirt tonight, but unfortunately I used it working out this week and it's still in the wash. So I went to try to get it. I didn't think it was a good idea to pop that out. So tonight we have a very, very special speaker. Jay, are we still going?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Tonight we have a very special speaker, Mr. Kipper McNeal. He is one of our actual pillars in our community. And I have known him for quite a long time and asked if he would come tonight and to tell us about how he lives his life, maybe some of the background of where he came from, and tell us what he does on a daily basis to be strong. So Kipper has, like I said, he's a pillar in the community. He's a president of the Rotary Club, and I'm just so excited to listen to him. And so it's all up to you now, Kipper. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Archie, for inviting me to share tonight. A little bit nervous, I'll say, sharing on a Zoom meeting, first time. Long time listener, first time caller. No. So, yep, my name's Kipper and I am an addict. Didn't realize I was an addict for quite some time, till probably 2003. But, I was born and raised pretty much here in Grants Pass, Oregon. Both my parents are still married today. So I grew up with a loving family. Didn't have a whole lot, so I knew what food stamps looked like. I knew what the food line looked like, but I didn't know what that meant at that time because of the love that the house had and the things that we did. So I learned a lot about family growing up. But also, at the age of 7 years old, I had my first childhood trauma, probably the worst one. I was molested by my uncle at the age of 7 for a summer. And, of course, told things not to, scared into not telling on him. And at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of education on it. So I didn't know any different. I didn't know any better, just a scared kid, so believe I blocked most of that up until high school. And that's when I started feeling a little bit different than the guy next to me. I played sports up until 8th grade, and then grabbed a skateboard about 9th grade and experimented with marijuana, of course, a little bit of alcohol. And then that progressed throughout high school, of course. I didn't click up with one social group. I kind of just got along with everybody and anybody. But whenever there was any kind of situation going on, I was always one to step to the front and be a little bit louder, a little bit bolder, the first one to do something. So, got in some trouble in high school. I didn't graduate high school, but I did complete all 12 years. And 4 days after the day I was supposed to graduate, ended up going to the National Guard. So I signed up right before Desert Storm took place in January in 1991. I think I signed up November 1990. So I got to go to boot camp in AIT over in Fort Benning. And after I got out, I actually went an extra half year to high school to try to finish a couple credits, and still a half credit short, and ended up getting a job in the roofing industry in 92. And enjoying some time in the National Guard, going away for 2 weeks out of the year, and the weekend warrior. But I was also partying, had friends still, partied a little bit too much, worked, drank. My drug use was pretty socially and minimal at the time, and I didn't know what quite addiction was, but I knew what a drug addict was, and kind of seen people and kind of heard, but never really. It wasn't really my lifestyle. Mine was the social party scene, and it ended up getting me in trouble one year. I think that was 94. Ended up after going to a bar. I was 20 years old with fake ID. Ended up getting in a fight and going to getting an assault 1 charge. That ended my stint in National Guard, and ended up going to prison for 4 years in 1995. Went there, did some cognitive thinking skills classes. I think it's a class called Pathfinders. Didn't lose much for a good time, but you can definitely find anything you find on the streets, you can find it in there as far as drugs or Pruno. But I got out and had a different mindset, not a criminality so much, but I didn't want to go back to prison. And so just kind of put my head back down, went to work, did well, got off parole, as in checking in person, probably about 1.5 years, and then I got off parole. Well, I think in about a year after that, a friend of mine got out and went to work. I got him a job working with me for a roofing company here, and it was his birthday, and said, "Hey, I got some meth," and I'm just like, "Okay, sure. I've never been addicted before. No big deal." Well, that time in my life, it took a little bit different spin. I enjoyed it a little bit too much. And I think that was in 1999, 2000, about 2000. And then 2001 is where I started noticing I was using more and wanting to work less, isolating more. And from 2001 to 2003 is when addiction became a full-time job for me. Everything else kind of went to the wayside. I did get married in 2001 to an ex-wife of mine, and kind of drug her through that, and stayed home. I didn't work much. Both my parents live here in town. A lot of my family does, and I didn't do anything with them actively. Too ashamed to go out because I was using quite a bit. Didn't look like myself. Didn't act like myself. Didn't want people to see me. And like I said, I grew up in this town, so a lot of people knew who I was, and I was kind of ashamed of how I looked and what was going on in my life. But when I first started using in 2001, it was more, I enjoyed it. Wasn't putting any feelings or emotions, bearing any of that. But eventually it turned into that because I was ashamed of who I became. And so I was using to hide those feelings and thoughts and emotions. And of course that got me in a little bit of trouble. And Archie, I think you had me in handcuffs at one time, one late night. And, but thankfully you guys are there to protect those, who are out and about. And then I watched my then wife, she was pregnant and she didn't use. And I told myself, I'll quit using when my kid's born. And I missed some Omaha's classes, and I missed some stuff because I was using when it was everything for newborns and families. And so I said I was going to quit using. And my daughter was born August 16th, 2003. And I wasn't there for her birth. I was home asleep. And then I went to the hospital after I woke up. My parents took me up there. And when I held my daughter for that first time, it took my breath away. I had to sit down with her, really didn't know unconditional love until I became a father. And life kind of changed for me. But I didn't know what recovery was. I didn't know I was an addict. I didn't know what quitting and getting clean was all about. I didn't use my drug of choice for probably a month and a half. And I was substituting one for another: alcohol, weed, more alcohol. And about that month and a half, I'm back to using what I liked to use at that time. And I disappeared for about 2 weeks. And there was a lot of guilt and shame, that lack of sleep, paranoid thoughts, role-playing things in my head, worst case scenarios of me being a dad, not a good dad, and things that could happen. And I remember one night I was driving around and I had there's a BB gun that looked like a pistol in my van. And I'm thinking, well, if a cop pulls me over, I'm just going to stand outside, put it up in the air, and do a cop-assisted suicide. That didn't happen that night. A few nights later, came to a conclusion that I wanted to be a dad more than I wanted to be an active drug addict. I reached out to a friend that I used with that I knew went to a inpatient program, and he got clean and he was staying clean. I remember that phone call. Told him I wanted what he had. I needed help. And they talk about in the first step to Narcotics Anonymous is surrendering. And that's when I surrendered to my addiction, realizing that I had a problem and I couldn't control it and I couldn't manage it. So he talked to me, got me into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous and to meetings. He got me a job working with him temporarily until I can get into an inpatient treatment center. And that was the DADS program over in Medford. And the wait was a long wait, but I don't know who he talked to or whatnot, but that was November 11th, 2003 when I made that phone call to him. And within 2 weeks, I was at the DADS program. So, and what was cool about that is I got to bring my daughter there on the weekends with me, and I got to learn, work on myself and taken out of my environment. When I was talking to the counselor, they did an assessment there and asked me several questions. And one of the questions that stood out that I've never been honest with or never really asked or opened up about is abuse, sexual, mental, physical abuse as a kid. And I sat there for a minute and I'm thinking, what my friend told me is put all your cards on the table because you're going to get a lot back. Be open and honest. And, so it took me a second, but I did open up about being molested at the age of 7 by my uncle. And asked me, if I talked to anybody about it. Said no. Do my parents know about it? I go, I don't know. Then they asked me what I would like to do. I said, well, I'd like to talk to my parents. But my biggest fear at that point was to open up to my parents and them tell me we know about it, and they didn't do anything about it. So that was my biggest fear. But that DADS program provided a safe place for that talk. And of course they didn't know, which was a big relief. Tears were shed. But got to deal with that. And as I opened up in different groups, realized I wasn't the only one. I'm not different. It wasn't my fault. There wasn't a lot of education. And it doesn't make me any different than the person standing next to me. But it took me until that was when I was 30 years old. So I dealt with that from high school up till then, riding on my shoulder, thinking I was indifferent than the person next to me. I left the DADS program and did outpatient with I think it was Steve Atkins. And then I went back to work in the roofing industry, put my head down and went to meetings, went to work, didn't have a license. I rode a gas powered scooter up to work in the rain. At first it was a mountain bike. And this is a company I've worked for in 92, but new owners. And they knew the value of me and how I was a good worker before I started using consistently. And so I had nothing. I gave everything up to my addiction, my tools, the vehicle that I had, it got impounded and gone. It was gone. I had a roof over my head and clothes on my back. So I had to work for everything that I openly gave up for my addiction. And about 9 months into recovery, I ended up getting a service position, secretary in a meeting. So that was keeping me coming back and keeping me committed. Even though it was something small, it was something huge because I was opening up the doors to a meeting. I felt important to be able to open up the doors to allow other addicts to come in. And then 9 months into it, I finally got to see some rewards. I was actually invited on a family trip to Lake Shasta. And that was pretty cool. I had a good time and realized, hey, recovery's not too bad. I'm clean. I can make a conscious decision. Trust is coming back, not only with myself, because I have to learn to trust myself and get okay with myself so others can trust me and be, and see that in me. I did end up getting my license back. That was 2003, 4, I think 2005. And then I ended up asked if I wanted to be a manager of that roofing company and do the new construction and commercial division. That went well. And then I think 2006, one of my friends here Trent Carpenter, Southern Oregon Sanitation. I kind of grew up with him a little bit. Said, hey, what do you think about Rotary? I'm like, well, isn't that just a bunch of old people, doing auctions and stuff like that? He kind of explained it to me. And throughout my 92 up until 2006, I've always kind of done, not I don't want to say charity work, but a little bit of involvement in the Habitat for Humanity. And I'd gather whatever roofers I could and help do those roofs, no charge or whatever. So I said, you're already out there doing stuff like that. Why don't you become a part of something bigger than yourself? So I thought about it. And, at that time, my daughter was 3 years old. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'm going to do this for her, to show her that you can give back without expecting money or anything, other than just giving to the community and making a difference. And I also believe the only way, to make a difference in the community is to be a part of it, not just to be someone on the sidelines and just talk and complain. So, but I joined Rotary here locally in Grants Pass in 2006. I'm still a member today. I got heavily involved in Narcotics Anonymous and the service structure there at a local level and also at a regional level over a period of time. And when I didn't have my license in the beginning, I like to call it the NA Fun Bus. What we do is when we go to the regional meetings, basically, you're basically like a board type setting. You go in and you report for the state of Oregon, but for our area here in Grants Pass, and we'd all pile in the car and pretty much pack as many people as we could in a hotel room, and we had fun. And it was, I still talk about it today with some of the people that back then that are still clean today. And we talk about how much fun that was, traveling together, talking together, eating together, sleeping on the floor or whatever. But meeting new people, that was cool. And to realize that, going up to Portland, Bend, Wairika, that I wasn't alone. So seeing all these other people in recovery and doing the next right thing, and to hear what they were doing to stay clean and sober was giving me hope that I can do the same too, and also by listening to their shares and talking to them, knowing that they've had the same experiences that I had. Maybe not that one individual had all the same that I've had, but if you talk to 100 people, I'm sure all my feelings and thoughts, and they've felt the same thing. So that was quite a wild ride. I got to go into the jails and speak there. I did as chairperson for hospitals and institutions here in Grants Pass, and also chaired it for the state of Oregon, which was, they sent me to Las Vegas to workshops, Seattle, Ogden, Utah. And it was a good experience. But while that was happening, I was also in Rotary and developing a professional side of my life again, or I never really had one, I should say, but I was developing one and getting more active in the community. I got involved going to chambers and doing a thing called greeters, where you go and talk about your business for 30 seconds and listen to everyone else talk about theirs for 30 seconds at different business locations. And that got me involved in concerts in the park. I got on the committee helping set up, fundraise, and so I was being productive in the community, and it was cool. And my daughter was young to where I drug her along on a few of those things, and she enjoyed that at one time. She's 17 now, doesn't hang out with dad too much anymore, but but that's what I was doing at that time to stay clean. I was active in the community, I was active in my recovery, I was active at work, and I was active as a father. Also, as a personal hobbies, I was doing at that time, I got into whitewater kayaking. Got into it pretty heavily. Almost every weekend I was going. There was one incident where I was on the North Fork of the Smith River. It was raining, the flows were up. One guy lost his kayak because he couldn't get back into it after it rolled in the high water. And a couple of guys went on down to Gasky, to the town of Gasky, and called one of the parents, and they looked at the topography of it and said, no, they're not going to get out of there and get out of that canyon before dark. So they had search and rescue after us. They had Coast Guard out there. We didn't hear the helicopters because of the rain. It was in February. So we ended up spending the night in the woods in the mountain. And then the next morning, my previous company I worked for, the owner, and the company I work for now, my boss, they were driving down the road and they were found us at 7 a.m. So I got the experience of that, being clean and sober, which is pretty cool. But it made the newspaper if anyone wanted to look that up. Kipper McNeal, whitewater kayaking. It was quite the ordeal. But I got into dirt bike riding too, with several friends. So, you know, I was also working on my self-care, not just recovery, community, my kid, but I had to have something fun and an outlet. And I used that whitewater kayaking and dirt bike riding for a long time. And then I think 8 years into my recovery, I think I got on Facebook, and I think Facebook came out 2007 or 6 or something, but things were popping up. I created a Facebook page, and friends in recovery were on Facebook. And I remember reaching out to one of them and saying, "Hey, don't put anything about recovery on Facebook." I was kind of embarrassed of being an addict. And I was wearing two hats, my recovery side, developing my professional work side in the community, and was kind of ashamed of it. So I was trying to separate the two. And I did a pretty good job on it, because I ended up stopped going to meetings, stopped being of service in Narcotics Anonymous. Service commitments were up, so I didn't serve anymore, and lost contact with didn't contact my sponsor anymore. So I thought I was okay. I thought I was better. I thought I was fixed in a way, even though I still knew I was an addict. But ended up going through a divorce and getting remarried. Probably one of the hardest things I did was sit my daughter down at 8 years old and say, "Hey, your mom and I are splitting up." And that was definitely a hard moment, but ended up getting divorced and getting into another relationship, and it was a toxic relationship. But I was still in Rotary. I was still working. In 2007, I call it my dream job, and that's where I'm at now. Roofline supply and delivery into distribution. And I love what I do. I have a passion for it. It's what I know. I kind of grew up in the industry and have a lot of friends in the industry. So I thought it was okay that I could do things on my own. But that relationship didn't end up too well, and I ended up picking up. Thought it was just a drink, no big deal. And I managed to do that for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. That was 2014, but it progressed. It progressed into me picking up what I like to use, and used it a few times, and I thought I can control it. Did it one weekend, and then a month and a half, 2 months later, did it again. And then in 2017, did a little bit more than what I wanted to do, but it really affected me, and the paranoid thoughts going through my head, a couple days of being awake, and not wanting to go to work. And during my toxic relationship, I did end up getting full custody of my daughter. And all the thoughts of like all the stuff I've worked for, everything that I've gained, it's going to go away again quick. I need to do something now. And I remember asking that was my second wife, and I said, "Hey, I need to talk to someone about this. I'll let my boss know, talk to my parents." And she's like, "No, we'll just say you're sick and just deal with it. Take a couple days off and go back to work." Well, I ended up calling my boss and say, "Hey, I relapsed." And he knew I was drinking again, but he didn't know that I relapsed and used my drug of choice. And he goes, "Okay, well, what are you doing?" And so after I got thrown with him, I called my old sponsor from several years back. He came over, and the next night I was in a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous. So I knew where I needed to be, and I also opened up to my daughter. I let her know what happened. I didn't, you don't give all the details of what took place, but hey, this is what happened, and this is what I'm doing now. Opened up to my parents and a few of my friends, and holding myself accountable. So went back into work, and they're like, well, we need to do something more than just take your word. You go into meetings. Company policy, you come forward with something like this, there's a course of action you have to take. And one of them was to get an assessment, go to inpatient or outpatient. And I ended up doing outpatient at On Track for 90 days. And that was totally acceptable. I thought I was going to lose my job, at the least. But I didn't. Very supportive. The company I work for, very supportive and very proud of the steps that I've taken. And I've actually gotten phone calls from 2 other individuals, kids that are going through addiction, and my phone line's open, if I can help. And I think a month after that was November 18th, 2017. So that's my clean day. I did have 11 years at one time. I've almost got 3 years again. So, so yeah, a month after that, so almost Christmas time, I ended up moving out with my daughter over to back to my parents' house to get out of the toxic relationship and kind of start over and work on myself again in recovery. Like I said, work was pretty supportive of it and understood what was going on. So I'm thankful for the job that I have today and the people around me. Had nothing but support when I came clean. So yeah, got back involved in Narcotics Anonymous, working on myself. And I knew the program worked if you let it work. I wasn't happy with myself and the choices I made, but I knew that the program would love me when I couldn't love myself. And about 90 days into it, I started liking myself again and who I was becoming and the choices that I was making. But I put my head down, went to a lot of meetings, went to, I think 2 nights a week to the counseling meetings, to the groups, and continued to work, continued to find myself again. So ended up moving out of my parents' house into a little townhouse apartment. And it was the first time I've lived on my own. I mean, I've had my daughter with me, but first time on my own. It's always been with a roommate, my parents, significant other, friends. But this is the first time I stood my own and got to realize that, I can take care of a house by myself, which I knew I could do, but it was just different knowing that it was all me, which was a great accomplishment. And it gave me a great foundation to know that I don't have to compromise my integrity or sacrifice different things for a relationship or a situation I don't want to be in. So definitely still involved in Rotary today. I was president in 2012, and I'm in succession to be president again in another, I think, 9 months. June 2021. So it's basically a 4-year commitment, which is kind of cool to see the progression of it and good work that does in the community. But what I did definitely do different this time is not separate professional life and recovery. I ended up sharing at one of our Rotary meetings my experience, strength, and hope, kind of what I'm doing here today. And these are people that I've known for quite a while. A couple of people knew some of my story, but no one really heard everything. And I was nervous. Tears flooded my eyes when I shared a bit, especially, about my daughter and making a promise, that I would quit using when she was born, and I didn't. Got some good feedback, so that was a huge step for me. So today I don't wear multiple hats about my recovery. I'm pretty open about it. It's on my Facebook page. There may be another addict out there that hears my story or knows that I'm in recovery, that sees something in me that they can connect with, that I can answer for them and get them to the place or answer that. I don't know all the answers, but I know I have a vast network of people in recovery that I can get answers for, which is awesome. But today, I'm active in my recovery. I do at least 1, maybe 2 Zoom meetings a week with NA. I'm still working at Roofline Supply and Delivery. I've been there 13 years, the longest I've held a job, which is awesome. At one place, no interruptions. Still involved in the community. You know, in a very healthy relationship today too with another woman in recovery, Janae, there, listening to me. But that's what I'm doing today, and I'm raising my daughter. You know, she's a senior this year, doing great in school, very self-motivated. Has her first job, and I feel I've done well at that aspect. You know, in the beginning, I got clean for her to be a dad and not an active drug addict. And today, I'm clean for me, which makes me available to be that dad, and makes me available to be a good son, a good friend, a good significant other, a good coworker. You know, so that's what I'm doing to stay strong today. Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Kipper, for sharing your story. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to anybody that wants to make a comment or has a question for you. Go ahead and unmute yourself and fire away.
Hi, it's Rebecca. Can you tell us a little bit about ways you've helped people from your past? I find your story really very inspiring, and I'd like to hear a little bit about how you've reached back to some of your struggling friends from your using days.
Boy, I'm trying to think if there's any one of them when I was using that I actually hang out with today, and I know I've helped one come in and out of the rooms, but most part, I probably have more success with the people that I've connected with and shared at meetings or in the jail. One person in particular, I remember going into the jail and sharing, and this was probably 2005 to 2007. But then in 2018, I actually saw him going through inpatient on track, and I went up to a meeting there. They have NA meetings up there, and I saw him up there. He goes, "Do you remember me?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Your story impacted me, and I didn't get clean right then, but it planted the seed about recovery, and it was possible, you know." And he said he remembered that very much, and that was that I didn't realize I touched somebody that like that in the jails. I just figured people were just wanting to get out of the jail cells, and I had my own personal experience with it, and know even one person hears a message, they come out, that's a success. I've have a cousin who's been in and out of prison. I've talked to several times, and I hope this time he gets it. But never used with him, but I know he has struggles in 2 different social circles. But I check in with him every once in a while now. He's doing good, has a job, he says, and has his own place. But I know he's reached out to me in times when he thought he was at his wit's end with using. But all you can do is be there and answer questions, and lead them to you can lead a horse to water, but it's their choice to drink or not, so. But yeah, most of my stories would be in the rooms, Narcotics Anonymous, and coming up. And I know I shared at the dad's program within this last year and a half, and connected there when I shared about my trauma as a child, as being molested at 7 years old, and said, you openly shared about that, and it helps me, and today, like I said, I don't feel any indifferent from that. I can joke about it. I can share about it, very open about it. And, hopefully someone could see, hey, this guy's pretty normal to a certain point. And he can talk about it. Maybe I can do that one day,
Kipper. It's Kyla McCormick here, your girlfriend's best friend. Pretty sure you know who I am.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, what brings you the most joy about your life and your recovery? And it doesn't have to be your girlfriend just because she's my best friend. Just so you know, that doesn't have to be the answer. So.
She has a knife over there looking at me funny, but being comfortable in my own skin and being happy with the choices that I'm making today. I didn't have that when I was using. To be able to give back, knowing I can give back without expecting anything back, you know, watching my daughter grow and blossom. She's aware of my addiction. She has a fear. She's told me, she said, Dad, when I go to college, I don't want you to relapse. I'm kind of scared of that. I'm like, don't even be scared of that. I'm doing this for me. You know, in the beginning it was for you, yes, but it's for me now, you know. Probably being able to make conscious decisions today and comfortable in my own skin, you know, like I said, watching my daughter grow and who she's become, because like I said, I wanted to be a dad more than I wanted to be an active drug addict and participate in her life, and that I've done. And now she's about ready to graduate, done pretty good there, you know, so that's probably giving me a lot of joy. And of course, Janae over there.
Thank you, Kipper. Those are super good answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, does anybody else want to make a comment or have a question? Well, I'll throw one at you, Kipper. What somebody that is in recovery, what would you say would maybe a couple of pointers on what would you say you learned in, you know, let's say before 2017, if you had to go back and do that all again, what were the signs that that you could have been looking for to maybe avoid that second time?
The phrase divide and conquer, because I was trying to wear two separate hats instead of just being totally like I'm an addict, you know, and not trying to live two different lifestyles, you know. That should have been my first indication. And I would have to say the second was not going to meetings anymore, getting disconnected from the recovery community, not giving back what was freely given to me, sharing at meetings, talking to my sponsor, and continuously working on myself. You know, in the program, you have the 12 steps you work on, and it's amazing. I didn't realize how the spiritual awakening you're supposed to have. I wasn't believing that until I hit steps, I think 7, 8, and 9, and I saw how they worked and why they were set in the 1 through 12 the way they were. But once I saw how they worked, I was like, oh wow, you know, I'm learning a lot about myself. I'm digging into myself deeper than what I ever would have if I wasn't an addict. But yeah, getting disconnected from Narcotics Anonymous recovery was definitely a telltale sign. I mean, if I would have stayed connected, I would have had someone there to call me on my BS or my lack of working on myself, or maybe the relationship that I was in. And I would have had someone else to talk to. So.
Thanks. Hopefully that can be helpful to others.
Yeah. Don't get disconnected and keep working on yourself.
Archie, any final words?
Yes. First of all, Kipper, I just want to tell you how proud I am of you, how much love and respect I have for you as a human being. You know, I think the biggest thing that I've learned from tonight is how you know, this whole program we set up is teaching people how to be strong. And so many times in your story tonight, that's what I was hearing about, how there were times where you were hiding, and there were times where you didn't want to be discovered. And then at one point, it just seems like you just let it all like hang out, and you're so genuine. And that takes a lot of strength. And I really appreciate that. And we need you in this community. That being said, I don't know if you heard, but we're working on trying to start small with a residential treatment center, where we'd like to go ahead and build a house for pregnant mothers that are battling opiate addiction. We're focusing on opiate addiction, but I'm sure we're not going to turn anybody away as far as addiction is concerned. But just a place where somebody who's pregnant, who can come into this facility, you know, when they're along the way in terms of being pregnant, and then they could just have a safe spot to be there, and hopefully take advantage of resources and learn about being strong there, and reminding them to be strong, and then having their child drug-free, and then go on with their lives and be a fantastic mother. This is in a conceptual stage right now, but you know, hearing you talk and everything, I think you're a great candidate for helping us put a roof on for free. What do you think?
Well, I definitely know the right people to. I could probably reach out to a few different companies and get a few different guys together, if not one company or someone else that would. And I would definitely be helping too, but it goes a lot quicker and faster when you have a few people up there putting it on. And yeah, I'll definitely make a commitment for that.
Okay.
And then I'll talk to you afterwards about some other ideas too with that.
All right. So what I hear is that our Hope Home has a roof. We don't have walls or anything, but we have a roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kipper, thank you so much, buddy.
Yep. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, thanks again. Any final comments or questions from anybody else out there? All right. Well, Kipper, we're going to make sure to get you a shirt just like what I'm wearing here. Be strong. Thanks for being our special guest speaker this evening. And you can catch the replay of this. You can see that there's a link on our website, grace-roots.org. You can also buy some of these T-shirts here, some of these Be Strong T-shirts, and we will likely be doing another one of these the second Thursday of next month as well, and hopefully we'll continue these on a monthly basis. So thanks again, Kipper. Great story. Thank you for sharing it, and we'll see you next month.
All right. Thank you. You guys have a good night.
You too.